Are you kidding me? There's a trash truck right outside our door for no reason. Every time. Yesterday, stone cold quiet. Set up my whole rig, get ready to film for you guys. Beep, beep, beep. As soon as I'm done recording, we will not hear a peep out of this neighborhood. Guaranteed. Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Andrew Robinson and I am a recovering audiophile, and I just want to say welcome back to my channel where we talk about all things audio, art, music, and design. And if this is your escape from the craziness in the outside world, I just want to say welcome, because today we have a very special review for you. And I kind of feel like lately I've been saying that a lot, but honestly, anytime that we can get together to talk about hobbies and hi-fi, it's a good day. And today is going to be an exceptional day because we are talking about the Bandwidth Audio 2-channel tube Class A/B, just flagship system. That's right, we are talking about the whole system. And somewhere inside this video, we will also be revealing the winner of our U-Turn Audio Orbit giveaway. So be sure to watch until the very end, because you never know when I might drop that name. So let's get into it. A comment that does come up a lot on this channel is, at what point do you have to spend, or does the law of diminishing returns kick in? For example, I have $1,000 so-and-so. How much more do I have to spend in order to reach that pinnacle of performance, that nth degree of perfection? Today's system, the Bandwidth Audio system, which includes a phono preamp, a Class A tube preamp, and tube monoblocks, is that type of nth degree system. Let's just not mince words. It's not cheap. The total system price of what I am going to be reviewing today is just a little bit north of $17,000. And so at $17,000, I don't want to mince words and tell you that this is for everyone. It obviously isn't. We all are grown-ups and we all understand that. But I don't drive a Ferrari, but I still watch videos about Ferraris. And today we are talking about the audiophile equivalent of a Ferrari, and I want it to be fun. But yes, can you have great sound for less than $17,000? Absolutely. But for $17,000, is the Bandwidth Audio system as close to perfection as one can hope to get? Well, that's what I hope to answer with this review. Now, if you're the type of person that looks at tube audio equipment as a sort of glorified tone control, I'm going to stop you right there, because the Bandwidth Audio system is not that type of component. It's not that type of system, because the Bandwidth Audio system on a whole has no real sound of its own. And that was very shocking to me, because in my experience, tube audio electronics, for better and for worse, almost can't help themselves in making things just a little bit soft around the edges, or a little bit romanticized in the mid-range, or maybe even rolling off the bass. And that just simply was not the case here with the Bandwidth Audio system. And I even went so far as to isolate each individual component by connecting just the phono preamp to my existing system and using just the preamp alone with, say, a Class D amplifier and my turntable, and then just isolating the amps themselves. And honestly, every time I did some sort of combinational change, the result was always the same. What I was hearing was the other component or components in the system, but not the change that I made with the bandwidth. And so straight away, I was a little bit taken aback because I was expecting tube-like sound. And that's not to say that the bandwidth audio system is more solid state sounding than tube. It's not. It's just neutral. It doesn't really have a sound. So I can't describe to you, oh, the mid-range is just a little bit syrupy or buttery and the bass is this or the high frequencies or that because, well, it just doesn't do that. It just really doesn't do that. And so what is there to talk about? Well, a lot actually, because what the bandwidth audio system does, and does to the nth degree, is get the harmonics, the texture, the detail, and the dimension of the recording just so. For example, vocals. Just singer-songwriters, frontmen, you name it. Didn't matter. Hard rock, small ensemble music. The delineation, texture, and detail, and nuance and inflection of the human voice was that much richer, that much more defined, and that much more dimensional through the bandwidth audio system compared to anything else that I had in this house. And that was true from the mid-range to the bass to the high frequencies. It's not that they were colored in their sound. It's not that the system altered it in any way. It was just that I was that much closer to the artist, to the musician, or to the overall intent of the recording than ever before. So from a soundstage perspective, that meant that each individual instrument, each individual artist in a soundstage was that much more clearly defined, much more clearly placed, and with that much more three-dimensionality to the sound of their performance. So if you can imagine being able to take an exploded view or an expanded view of an entire musical performance, and let's say through lesser gear, you're looking at it from more of a diorama type perspective where you can see the layers, but then the bandwidth audio kind of enables you to turn it and really see just how much expansion there is in that signal, in that source material, and then brings all of the little things into just the most supreme of focus. That is what the bandwidth audio system does. And that is what makes it so good. And in my humble opinion, if you have the means, that's what makes it worth its $17,000 asking price. Now again, I know, $17,000 is a ton of money, an absurd amount of money. But again, if you prioritize getting it just right, if you prioritize the little details, then this is the cost of admission. And so in that respect, the bandwidth audio system really is among, if not one of, the finest hi-fi experiences and complete systems top to bottom that I have ever heard. And in my opinion, it is worth every penny of its asking price if you are the type of customer that puts an absolute premium on the reproduction of music in your own home. So, where are the drawbacks? What are the cons? I don't count its price against it because, for one, price is relative. I can sit there and tell you that I understand that for many people, $17,000 is a lot of money. But for someone else who puts a premium on this type of performance, in terms of cost no object systems, 17 grand isn't that much. I know. That sounds ridiculous for me to say, especially given everything that's going on. But at the end of the day, life will return to some sort of normal. And at the end of the day, there will be people that spend tens of thousands of dollars more than this to achieve what the bandwidth audio system does at its price point. That out of the way, or all of that aside, what are some things that you need to be aware of? Well, for starters, this is an entirely analog and manual system. It just is. There are no digital inputs of any kind. You will have to bring your own DAC or have a digital component that has analog audio outs to the party because this does zero digital to audio conversion. Zero. Second, it's all manual. There are no remote controls. This system begs you to have a physical connection, a physical relationship with your system, with your hi-fi. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it can suck just a little bit when, you're watching different content. And this is especially true more for television or movie watching. But when you're going from, say, a show to a show and they're leveled just a little bit differently, yes, you are going to have to get off your couch and you are going to have to just turn the volume up or down to taste. But obviously within the confines of a film or album, you shouldn't have to ride the volume like that. But suffice to say, if you are one that likes the convenience of being able to stay in your chair and turn things up or down, or even switch inputs between, say, various sources, you're going to have to get up. You're going to have to manually do it with the bandwidth preamp because it's entirely manual. Just is. Because it's also manual, because it's also tube-based and Class A or Class AB, depending on the component, things do take a minute to sort of ramp up. As with any tube-based electronics, they do sound their best when warmed up. So you can expect the sonics, the performance to change ever so slightly over the course of the initial, say, 15 minutes to half an hour as things heat up and come to temperature. This is not burn-in, okay? This is not about burn-in and you having to put thousands of hours on something before you can deduce what it sounds like. This is just the nature of tubes. They just need to warm up. They just need to warm up. So this is not a system that you are just going to rush in, flick on, turn to 11, and jam out on. Also, this is not a system that you can just kind of turn off and on, off and on, off and on, however it suits you. This is a system that if you want to listen, you're going to sit down and make time to listen. And at this type of an investment, that makes all the sense in the world. Why would you treat this as background listening equipment when it is something that is far more dedicated in that regards? Also, because these are tube-based electronics, they do run warm. Now, you can put them in an enclosed cabinet, provided that cabinet has proper ventilation. This is especially true of the phono preamp and preamp. You could even technically put the 288 amps in a cabinet if your cabinet was large enough to accommodate them, because they are not the standard width or the standard depth of most electronics. The phono preamp and preamp fit just as any other product would, but the amps are on the larger side. And because they're larger, they just don't fit in a lot of cabinetry. So these are amps that are made to kind of be out and seen. And well, because they're out and seen, ventilation, air, cooling, and all of that isn't so big of an issue. But if you have pets, if you have little ones, there's no tube cage for the 288 amplifiers, meaning the tubes are exposed to wet noses and tiny little fingers. So they don't get excruciatingly hot, but they do get warm enough that they can burn. You're going to want to place them in a way that they do not become a danger to unwitting little hands or noses. But outside of those few little caveats, most of which are kind of universal to all tube products, there really isn't anything overtly wrong that the bandwidth audio system does. So it's more or less, can you live with a system of this stature, of this size, and can you afford it? And if the answer is yes, then I have no question or doubt that you will not be supremely happy with its performance. Now, earlier in this review, before we got started, I did say that I was going to prioritize for those of you who may be looking at this type of a system, but may not have the cheddar to just slap leather all at once. So which component in the bandwidth audio system did I find to be the most important, or the one that maybe you should consider above all others? And for me, that is the 2-channel Class A preamp. The brand new Aurora preamp is an absolute revelation and among the finest 2-channel tube-based preamps I've ever heard in my life, full stop. It reminds me of my Hovland HP 100, but without that romanticism that I spoke about earlier. Now, I happen to believe that the Hovland HP 100, rest in peace because it is discontinued, is still one of the finest tube preamps ever made. And in its original configuration, like the bandwidth preamp, it was an entirely manual affair. And so I was pleased as punch when I listened to the bandwidth audio preamp by itself, because I found it to have the biggest impact on a whole to my listening enjoyment. And I found that it mated beautifully with the widest range of electronics. That can be Class D amps, that can be Class AB solid state amps. Obviously it paired very nicely with the 288 tube amps, but it just brought the greatest influence and the greatest benefits on a whole compared to the other two components in the system. So if you only have the budget, or you're looking for a component to prioritize, this would be that in this system. So where does that leave us? Well, I reviewed this system as a complete system. And as a complete system, the bandwidth audio phono preamp, and matching mono amplifiers is an absolute revelation. And at $17,000, while expensive, is one of the finest hi-fi experiences I've ever had. It just is. And it represents one of the most beautiful systems top to bottom in terms of visuals and construction that I've ever seen. And it's made all the better by the fact that it's made in America, right here in Austin, Texas, by a small business that understands what it is that they are bringing to you. This is not a nameless, faceless company. This is made by real people with real hands, and it shows inside and out. And the experience that you have with the bandwidth audio system as a result is that much more personal. So while it may not have the convenience of a lot of modern components, hell, all modern components, because it dares you to sit and listen, because it dares you to interact with it, because it dares you to make music a priority, I think it's all the more better for it. And I think it makes it a very special system that obviously is not going to be for everyone. But for the select few, you're in for a real treat. And now the moment some of you have been patiently waiting for. It is time to reveal the winner of our U-Turn Audio Orbit giveaway. And the winner is Mark Zarecki. Mark, if you are watching this, you have won yourself a U-Turn Orbit turntable with phono preamp. And you need to go to your Instagram in a little bit, in a minute, not right now, but in a minute, and look for a DM from me, because I am going to be needing your mailing address and contact information so that we can get this turntable out to you as soon as humanly possible. So congratulations, Mark, and thank you everyone who just watched last Friday's video, who participated in this little giveaway, and thank you again to U-Turn for just hooking us up and doing this with us. Thank you guys so very, very much. And so that's it, guys. That is today's review. That is today's video. That is all I have. It's been a long one, but we got through it. Congratulations to Mark. Thank you everyone for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you liked this video. Follow me on Instagram at my new account, Recovering Audiophile. And that's it. Be well. So let's just wrap it up. Let's just wrap it up. The only person that has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Be well. Stay safe. Take care of each other. And we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
That was really good.
Nailed that.
You ruled it.
I ruled it.
You ruled it.
All right.
Yeah. They
don't know when it's coming.
They don't know when it's coming.
Okay.
What's wrong with your face?
I have like a beard hair that is just messing with my program.